bunch of new people here, so let me explain quickly what I do. I write things about my life, and then I read them to you. And it's embarrassing. So, this essay is called Joel, which is my name. I particularly spell it like this for the purposes of this essay. Get ready. Okay. It took me over a year to recover from my first orgasm. I like to think my parents did a good job rearing me. At the right time in my life, books about boys and girls and sex kind of popped up randomly. I would read them at my leisure and talk with my parents on occasion. In between these casual discussions of biological function, I would go to school, eat my peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and dream of owning a grocery store chain. Basically, my parents managed to give me a sex education without me realizing it. I knew all the clinical words and felt comfortable using them. Unlike my friend Tim, who years later stood in the aisle of Meijer's department store and used some slang word for vagina that I didn't recognize. I asked him what it meant. "You know," he said, "pussy, twat, snatch, bush, beaver." The list seemed endless, and yet it struck me that he never listed the word vagina. Maybe he wasn't secretly educated like I was, and instead figured that he knew so many words for that part of the female anatomy, at least one of them had to be correct. I imagine him at the doctor's office announcing concern. "Doctor, there's something wrong with my girlfriend's poontang." I can forgive my parents for not teaching me these words. I believe it led to a more respectful treatment of women. However, there is one thing about my furtive education which did set me back and I wish had been more explicitly discussed. No one ever teaches you how to have an erection. And no one ever teaches you how to masturbate. At least no one ever taught me. So at the age of 17, I taught myself. My parents had recently purchased an oscillating massager from the well-meaning people at the company Oster. I think they are most famous for making food processors. It was basically a motor that you wore on your hand. This thing would whir away, vibrating your hand as it went. It had 3 speeds, and on high it turned my fingers into a blur. I like to put this contraption on my hand, turn it to low, and massage my shoulders with it, or massage my feet with it, or massage my legs with it. I'm not exactly sure how I got the idea to massage my penis with it. In the list of uses found in the instruction manual, penis massage was curiously left out. A strange omission considering how obvious an idea it was after just a few uses. I sat down on the couch, fully clothed, strapped the massager onto my hand, and began to experiment. It whirred away on low as some mysterious force, some unknown knowledge told me to take a couple fingers and draw up and down my crotch. After a few minutes, this same force turned the massager up to medium. That seemed to work better. 5 minutes later, Mr. Oster was on full blast. That felt good. That felt really good. I mean, that felt really, really good. I now understood why the people at Oster didn't put penis massage in the manual. Because once you try it, a shoulder massage feels like such a disappointment. A real disappointment. My fingers continued vibrating up and down as I zeroed in on what seemed to be the most pleasing place. My experimental searching produced a spot that can only be described as massage-orific. Me and Mr. Oster focused our attention on this spot of spots and really took note of how much better it felt than other spots. Like, a lot better. Like, a whole lot better. With a minor adjustment of pressure, this spot produced a sensation so far beyond any massage, forget massage, better than anything I had ever experienced. This was better than winning the hula hoop contest in 2nd grade. This was better than my first roller coaster. This was better than a swimming pool full of chocolate pudding. This was it. And then it was gone. Wait, that had only lasted 2 seconds. I wanted more. I wasn't done yet. I frantically searched up and down, over and over, wondering where the spot could have gone. I examined myself more closely, unzipping my pants and lifting up my underwear. It was at this point I came face to face with the most horrifying experience of my life. Sitting there under my size 32 Mervyn's was this gloppy white substance I had never seen before. I stared at it in disbelief, trying to figure out what this was and where it could have come from. The only sensible conclusion was that it came from my penis. A conclusion I did not like one bit. I had seen behavior like this before, when I sprayed a gypsy moth caterpillar with Raid. It would convulse as the poison attacked its nervous system, and then in one big curling, jerking motion spit up the contents of its innards as a kind of black paste. I shuddered at the thought that my poor penis was victim to a neurological disorder. That while I was busy having fun with Mr. Oster, down below my penis was suffering a stroke. And in a last gasp, desperate attempt to attract attention, spewed up its insides as a display of its inner pain. What had I done? It quickly occurred to me that I had been feeling fine earlier, and it was only after my transgression with the vibrator did things go wrong. It was only after I had assaulted my crotch with that horrific device, that whacking and thwacking monstrosity. What was I thinking? Oster makes food processor, for God's sakes. Food processor! Sure, penis massage wasn't in the instruction manual, but Oster should have put in a warning, something like, do not use on genitalia, or suffer the consequences of unknown neurological damage. In my hysterics, I recalled being taught something about semen. I knew it was a substance that impregnated a woman. I knew it comes out of one's penis, but I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know what color it was, I didn't know how much there should be, or the viscosity. So while I tried to calm myself with the notion that these penile innards are actually semen, there was no way to know. And this was not a question I wanted to ask my mother about. Nor was it something I could approach my peers with. I had such a level of embarrassment associated with this experience that I decided to figure it out on my own. Did I just have an orgasm, or does my penis have a palsy? Much research was needed. So I decided to give my penis a stroke each day and watch the results. I learned that I can even do this without the massager. Dutifully, I performed research twice a day, often 3 times, or 8. Each time the evidence was the same, yet each time I felt compelled to continue my work. I tried different grips, I did it through my clothing, with my pants down. Sometimes I had to be very diligent, but other times the research was over in a few seconds. I also noticed a direct correlation between seeing my friend Keith down the road and my desire to do research. It's all very interesting, but nothing told me whether this substance was normal, whether this was actually semen. A full year later, while I was in college, the answer unexpectedly came to me. My friend Rob and I were hanging out. We had just met a few days earlier and hit it off really well, so decided to get together, talk, and get to know things about each other. I learned about his family, I learned what his major was, I learned what friends we had in common, I learned how tickling a certain spot in his body caused him to shudder, moan, and start kissing me on the inside of my mouth. I also learned that he must have done similar research to what I had been doing. For he unzipped my pants and started massaging my penis in a way much slower, yet somehow better than Mr. Oster. On he went, touching all the right areas, doing all the things I had been researching until I felt that moment just before the penile convulsions. I knew at that moment I needed to pay close attention to his face. What would he do when he saw the substance? Would he freak out, afraid that I was broken or not? I stared. He stared. We stared. Then the convulsions happened. I watched every twitch of his face, every movement of his eyes, and when he smiled, I knew that everything was going to be all right.